Welcome once again to day one of the 2024 Sun Belt Conference Football Media Days. Today we're featuring programs from the East Division. We ask those of you in the room, as a courtesy to the speakers, please silence your phones and please keep conversations to a minimum for all of the media members here in attendance. Please raise your hand for questions and a microphone will be brought to you. And for those joining us on Zoom, type your questions into the chat and we'll read them in the room. We now welcome to the stage the Dukes from James Madison. The Dukes were 11-2 last year. They played in the Armed Forces Bowl. They opened their 2024 season August the 31st at Charlotte. They're represented today by head coach Bob Chesney and the student athletes Taji Hudson, a redshirt junior wide receiver from Cedartown, Georgia, and Jacob Dobbs, redshirt senior linebacker from Macomb, Michigan. We'll open it up with opening remarks from Coach from both and the student athletes. Coach?
Thank you. Thank you. First, thank you all. Honored to be here. Honored to be representing the greatest fan base in all of the Group of Five area and arguably all of college football. I think there's an energy right now in this valley and there's an excitement in this valley that we're all very, very excited about. And I think that we a great offseason here of having an opportunity to give back and be present in that community that is supportive and so present, for all of us. I want to thank, Commissioner Gill. I had a chance to go down to and when we were down there, we had a chance to really, learn a lot, me personally, learn a little bit more about this conference, but also learn about the leadership that it takes to stay on the forefront of just the cutting edge, stay on the cutting edge ultimately of just what the modern day college football has become. The roster instability, as I'm sure we'll talk about here in a minute, to all the other things that come with it. We need great leaders, and certainly we have that in Commissioner Gill and his entire administration. So I'm just very impressed. I was very impressed by each of you here today that I had a chance to spend time with, and then also just the coaches and the quality of players that the coaches have brought with them. It's just been an honor and a privilege to be part of this. Just to talk a little bit about us, there's numbers thrown around in here, and just to quantify it all, we lost 55 guys this season and brought in 64. So with that, finding yourselves in a situation where you're adding 64 new guys to the roster, there's quite a bit that goes into that. First, you have to identify the talent, right? Then you have to acquire that talent. Then you have to develop that talent. And then you have to retain that talent. And that is happening to happen each and every semester. It's just going to be part of what college football currently is until someday find ourselves. So the funny part about it is I think we're really, really excited about just where we sit here today. I think in some areas we might have even gotten better with the talent that is coming into these position groups. And I think it's only a matter of time before you all get a chance to realize exactly who these guys are. Not only with our program, but in our school at this moment. Our president has recently moved on. Our athletic director has retired, and our board of visitors, the head of the board of visitors has also retired, and there's been a lot in here that have changed. But with that change, you can look at that as an opportunity. And Matt Roan's in the back of the room as our new athletic director, and I'm just, I think we're all very, very excited about just where we sit here today and the leadership and what he is bringing to the table at this moment. Just to go back since we got here in December, obviously adding 64 new guys and 28 new coaches and support staff. Obviously, it's pretty safe to say that I've been busy and our staff has been busy. I had a chance to move into an apartment. It was me and 5 other guys. It was our offensive coordinator, our defensive coordinator, our special teams coordinator, our strength and conditioning coach, and myself, all in one building where we all, just kind of spent the night and then woke up in the morning and went and did it again. But ultimately, sort of the mission we were on, and it was ultimately what the mission had called for at that moment. It was just Wednesday when the moving truck showed up in Harrisonburg to drop off our stuff at our house. They left at 9 o'clock. I've been on for the past 3 days and then got on a plane and tried to get on 2 or 3 different, by the way, and over here, which I'm sure you all feel the pain of that. I think, the 2 guys I brought with You get a chance to hear from them and just what makes them so special. But Jacob was with us at Holy Cross, the all-time leader in league, trophy finalist, and 5-time, Patriot League champion. And then Taji, as transferred in here, was a quarterback at one point, and just the consistency that Taji brings to every single day, the energy, the effort, the attitude every single day. And I know that the years leading up to this were not perfect for him, but I can guarantee you'll be mentioning his name quite a bit as we go on through this next year. I went back right before this just to look at my press conference a little bit and just to see some of the things that I thought were important at that moment and just how far we've come. And, I think we were pretty close, and we hit the nail right on the head when it was said and done. But we knew we were going to be, have a lot of work to do in the portal. We knew we were going to have a lot of work to do with player retention, with NIL, with a lot of the things that that I think all coaches are facing at this day. And those were certainly tasks we were to. But in the end, building the staff was the most important thing we had immediately. And to me, that was about the ability to find guys that were extremely competent, but find guys that could connect with our players, that bring the proper chemistry to this program, and then at the same point, the right character. And we did that throughout our recruiting as well. I did not want to be in a situation. I have 3, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, and soon to be 14-year-old, and ultimately I wanted them to be able to walk around our facility. I wanted them not to know where they were, but know that they're with good people. So it's not only that we brought in high caliber football coaches, but we brought in high caliber people as well. That I noticed and realized was a deficiency of our program when we first got here, because we were very willing to accept a lot of praise from the community, a lot of support from the community. I think we're sold out. Our home ticket sales are sold out for the next 3 years as we sit here today. So it all exists. That support is there. But and so that was something we set out to do as we got into the winter and we got into the spring. And we given 500 hours of community service in one semester. And I think that's important for you all to know, because when you bring in 64 new guys to spend helping others, also spend time off the football field, not just on the football field, and be able to gel this all together. Our strength and conditioning coach, Jason Novak, and his staff are really second to none. They have done an unbelievable job with our players, leading them up to the moment in time where we show up next Tuesday and we're ready to roll. So, I appreciate you all for being here. I appreciate all of the opportunities I had to meet and interact with each and every one of you. I appreciate your professionalism, your knowledge of our program, and I look forward to answering any questions you might have, right now at this moment.
We'll open up the floor for questions. Once again, for all of you in attendance, please raise your hand for questions, and a microphone will be brought to you. And for those of you on Zoom, please remain on mute. Type your questions in the chat, and we'll read them in the room. And Coach, we have a question on Zoom, and my math is not the greatest, but you mentioned all the new players between players and staff. That's 92 new faces for all three of you being new faces. How do you keep up? How do you assimilate all that together? And do you ask people to walk around wearing name tags for a while?
I think we started that way. We had our names on our shirt. We really did. That's a fact. But you have to, right? You ultimately have to. Now, as coaches, every single, person you're bringing to this team. You probably know their family. Probably know all of that. And I think, but for every else to have a chance to learn each other, that's a big part of it. So we do basically walk around wearing name tags, and then we spend time together. We had a lot of updates to our locker room now. We have couches and PlayStations in there, and just a place where they could centrally locate and hang out together and spend time together. And then again, doing all the community service things. We had a lot of opportunities to go and do occasional meals with their position coaches. A lot of our players went to their position coaches' houses, and most recently we went to a community pool in town and just hung out together and hung out with the community. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, but it's going to come from time, right? The only way you're going to get to know people is by spending time together, and that's really, that connection is a big piece of what this program is currently about.
Taji, you're a new face.
Right. As he went to, obviously we walked around with our last names on our shirt or the front of our shirts. Another thing we do is when we have team meetings, we have the name game. So he'll pick one person, and just like this room, it's obviously rows, and everybody on that row will stand up, and you'll have to name them. And obviously there may be consequences, not very harsh. And we broke into groups, so you might get points, your group might get points if you do good. You might lose points if you do bad. But another thing, just to add on to what he said, just being intentional with creating relationships. Any teammate, any coach can just come in a building and act like they care. But how many actually go in and know the people they're around and actually care and know their families and what background they came from and where they're going?
Jacob, what was your key to learning all the new folks?
Yeah, I think the winter conditioning was a big deal. You're working with offensive linemen, you're working with defensive linemen, you're working with running backs, receivers. It's not particular to a position group, so it's really cool to meet guys from different position groups that you don't necessarily see every day in practice, because obviously linebackers cross over with running backs and things of that nature. But it was just really cool to meet and then work together in a team setting, developing relationships while also getting really good quality work done during winter conditioning. You're doing these hard sprints, you're doing these hard agility drills, but you're working together with guys that you're also learning about who they are. So that was a really cool piece for the winter.
Craig Stevens, AL.com. Coach, you have a lot of experience with playoff football, going to 12 teams this year. How do you think that's going to go, and is that the right number or too few, or what do you think?
Well, I think one bowl game where you put in it, and the third and fifth that might have had just as good a records on the outside is not the way to do it, and they've made an adjustment, obviously. I think 12 is a good number. I think I'm used to a little more, but at the same point in time, I think 12 gets the job done. I think you capture the most. What will it take for one of us to get in, right? That's ultimately the question. Would last year, if you win that final game and go into the championship game and win that, do you have a shot at it? I would think so. An undefeated team's certainly going to have a chance at it. But then how much room for error is there? But I'm excited about the thoughts of that. I'm excited, and I know our team is as well. And I just think you say those words out loud that could be a goal of yours, then the work begins the next minute you close your mouth. So it's really ultimately the idea of us just getting right back to work. But I think it's a good place to be.
Kevin Foote, Acadiana Advocate. Of all the players y'all lost, one of them was a very good quarterback. So tell us about the quarterback situation going into August.
Yeah, so we have, I think our quarterback room is great. I thought we brought in J.C. Evans, who's a great young quarterback out of Florida that was with us, graduated early, was with us through all of the spring, physically imposing 6'4", 220-pound quarterback, just a really, very capable, football player, but he's a freshman. So we also brought in Dylan Morris, who came from Washington, and Dylan was Michael Penix. And Michael Penix, as you all know, is not a Heisman, hopeful or candidate, but the winner. There's a lot that Dylan helped Michael reach his goals of where he wanted to be, and there's a lot that kind of rubbed off on each other, and there's a lot Dylan's brought to this program. He's an ultimate competitor. He's a professional in every sense of the word, and his study of film, his understanding of the position, and his ability to stay after and do more when he's done doing what he's supposed to do. The ability to do even more than that is what he's really brought to this program. So it's exciting. Watch. I'm excited about how that room shapes up, and there's a lot of capable guys that do a lot of different things really, really well. So we're going to get the most out of every single one of them.
Coach Thomas Terry with KTSW Sports had an opportunity to talk with you earlier. We kind of discussed how you just know how to win. You've done it at all levels of football, talking about D3, D2, and now looking to do it as well here at the D1 level with JMU now. How much does it mean to bring somebody alongside with you like Jacob from Holy Cross to kind of let these guys know how you operate?
I think there's a lot in there when you're done meeting with the team, right, they're going to hear what they hear, how they hear it, right? What they do next with it, and believe what you say, do they trust what you say? There's a lot in there. And they're going to have their own conversations about how they interpreted it and what they believe and don't believe. So to have Jacob and a few of his teammates, be able to be there and just be able to talk to those guys about, hey, this is what he's talking about in that moment. If I wasn't perfectly clear in those moments, for him to be able to kind of have them, relax and be at ease, understanding, the ins and outs of the program, he could help them with that. Now, they're not doing everything exactly the same, far from it, but at the same point, he could at least speak to the quality of the people that we brought with us, and just their intentions and their their mentality, and just exactly where they're coming from their heart. And I think that's important.
Dominic Rossetto, College Football Dogs. This one's for all three of you, really. The first 4 games and the 5 weeks of the season, you're looking at just bus rides. So even your out-of-conference schedule seems to be very regional. maybe purposeful, but what kind of advantage does that give you going into conference play, knowing that you don't have to go any crazy far distances? We know that's been much talked about with the alignments currently in college football, but you guys have done yourselves what seems like a big favor in keeping matchups close, even out of conference this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the game time will determine how fortunate we are in that aspect. But if you're on a 4 or 5 hour bus ride, I might rather take the plane, right? So it's just a matter of exactly where is it, and when does that game end, and how much does it affect your week ultimately. But 4 or 5 hours on a bus, or an hour and 15 or hour and a half on a plane, I think I might rather be on that plane. But ultimately, I think you're right that you're not so far out of region, and I think that's probably a benefit. I think the game times will determine how that all plays out.
I would love to say that our team is heavily based on adaptability. I feel like sometimes that doesn't really matter. We practice a lot on just being aware of what's going on and being able to adapt to anything that happens, whether it's right now, 10 minutes from now, 2 weeks from now. I feel like our team is heavy on adaptability. So I feel like it'll be great being comfortable, as he mentioned, just being close to those places. But I feel like our team will be, as well as our coaches, will be ready for whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big deal, too, to get 2 out-of-conference games at home with this day and age of college football. Sometimes having to schedule games for revenue purposes. I think it's great for our fans to bring in 2 high-quality events out of conference to our home field, and then we get 2 great out-of-conference events on the road, really cool environments. So it's exciting as a football player when you get those types of games out of conference, and then, not having to travel as far. I definitely think there's a little bit of advantage to it, but again, like Coach Chesney said, the game times and stuff, like a 4-hour bus ride after an 8 o'clock game, then, you're back at 4 in the morning. So we'll see. But at the end of the day, adapt and overcome to anything, doesn't matter, get better. The best way to look at it.
Emmanuel Peppers, Sunbelt Conference. Coach, you talked about the importance and really kind of emphasizing charting and scoring a lot of the things that the guys did throughout the winter and the spring. How much did that really add to the progress, and what are some of the benefits that you saw from that?
Well, I think it's accountability right away. I think when you publish those results on top of it, I think it holds people accountable pretty quickly. So that is something we did. I mean, we broke our team into 5 different teams. And in those 5 teams, they had 2 different teams, and they would go against the other, another team like that. And the matchups would be posted the night before, and those guys would show up and know that it's me against you for the next hour long or whatever that is. And we're talking about pushing sleds and swinging ropes and running, carrying chains, like all this stuff that comes with it. That's what it became. So it started to become an idea of who can I trust, who can I not? Who did I compete against that was a fierce competitor and would never, ever give up? You start to test people's limits and learn where they exist, and you start to here's the thing. You're going to experience me by whatever I'm going to give you today, right? I'm going to experience you by whatever you give me today. It's not really who I am. It's not probably really who you are. It's who your persona is, or I want you to feel like I am. But who am I when it gets to be the toughest moments of your life? Who are you in those moments when you can't physically or mentally go on anymore? Who are you at those moments? Those are the limits that we need to push the edges of with each of our players every single day and learn exactly who they are. Where's their fracture point? Where do they break? And that's, I think, a lesson that we learn from them, because ultimately that's going to determine our trust, their character, their toughness. All those things are really what we're going to end up learning about who they truly are as people, and that's really those moments. So I'm excited about what our team can do physically. I'm really, really excited to get back here to 100-degree days and all the stuff that comes with it when we get to football camp, of just exactly figuring out where they sit, where how hard do they fight, when do they give up, and then wherever they give up, that's that day. It better be a different day. It better be different tomorrow, and then the next day, and the next day, and find our way to build this team the right way. And that's ultimately testing it in fire is what we need to be able to do with 64 new guys on this team.
Coach, you mentioned quarterbacks earlier, talking about Evans and Dylan. It's obviously a competition going on between them. Do you have an idea of when you're going to name a starter? Have you already named one, or how's that?
It's not just them. Zoe's in there, Billy's in there. There's a bunch of other guys in there as well. I think that, to me, I'm just mentioning the youngest and the oldest that we have in that room. But no, we're not at that position yet. I think they all are unbelievable competitors. I think they do a great job. I think that Dylan brings something to the table that's very professional element right now, and the way he goes about his business, it's fun to watch him elevate that room. But we're not ready to do that just yet. And I think in the near future, when it's kind of determines itself, we'll know.
Got a Zoom question for Taji and Jacob. James Madison has been so successful for so long in football. Is there pressure to keep up that kind of momentum?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a really good quote one time. This might have came from Coach Chesney, but I don't want to give him too much credit for it. But pressure is for surgeons and soldiers. We get to play the game of football. It's a blessing every day you wake up, you put on those pads. It's an opportunity. It's not pressure. I mean, obviously, you have to recognize the great history that is JMU football. It's an honor and a privilege to put that jersey on every single day. And when you go out in that field, you have that in the back of your head that you want to represent JMU in the best way possible. And how you do that is by being the best version of yourself every single day. So I think that it's not necessarily pressure, but it's really just an honor and a blessing to put on that uniform. And you owe it to the people that came before you to do everything in your power every single day to be the best version of yourself.
I believe pressure is fear, and most of the time fear is not real. So just us coming each and every day and being able to prepare ourselves for what's next and prepare ourselves for the hardest thing, I believe that leads us to not having as much pressure as most people think we would have. We get to play football. We don't have to. We could do a lot of different things in life. You know what I'm saying? So just having fun while doing it, being able to compete with each other, I believe that leads to no pressure.
One more quick question from Zoom. Coach mentioned PlayStation earlier. Are you guys playing college football 25?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, tell us about your experiences there.
Well, I mean, I'm currently in a dynasty with the JMU Dukes, 10-0 as head coach Jacob Dobbs. I run the straight T, little old school football, very linebacker-esque offense that I'm running. Probably a lot different than Taji's offense. I don't know if I'd match up really well against Taji with how he's throwing the RPOs and stuff. So I'll stick to the power running against the computer. I'll let Taji play the online games and stuff.
As I mentioned, it's been really great. As he mentioned, I'm more of an RPO guy, like to get the ball out quick. But overall, it's just a blessing to be in the game, you know what I'm saying? Just be able to play our teammates. We have a dynasty league with the team, about 20, maybe 30 players on the team, all playing together. Just being able to compete on and off the field, that also leads to relationships and just being able to have fun, get away from the game while also playing the game a little bit. I've also been playing against people who use myself against me, and it sounds fun. I'm smiling, and then I start doing good on the game. But I'm losing. My player's doing good, I'm doing good, but I'm losing. So then I have to tighten up, get my competitive edge back, and stop myself from being good. So overall, it's been fun. It's a blessing to be on the game.
Coach, Taji, Jacob, we appreciate you being here. Good luck to you in the coming season.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We want to thank everybody for being here on day one of the Sun Belt Conference Football Media Days. We will resume again tomorrow at 10 a.m. right back here in this room with Conference Coordinator of Football Officials John McDade, who has some great things to tell you about the new rules and a lot of new things in college football. That'll be followed by the coaches and student athletes from the West Division. Once again, thank you and have a good evening.